Hello, everyone. We've not done a show in about 2 weeks, so we're stepping back in tonight with a brand new episode of Real Talk. And that will begin in just a moment on 92.5 WLSD The Vault. We have about 2 minutes to go. And hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in Friday, July 18th at 10 p.m. on 92.5 WLSD The Vault, 1220 a.m., WLSDradio.com. And you're tuning in to another edition of Real Talk. We've taken the last couple of weeks off. We had the 4th of July, and then we had last week where my voice was kind of out. I was screaming and yelling because I'm a crazy person and I didn't have a voice. But here I am back bringing you all a brand new show on this Friday, July 18th. Now, before we get into the show, you can go to all the social media. That's the Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, the Other People's Show. And some things will be changing as I've kind of deactivated my Facebook over the last week. But now it's back, and we're going to be producing some more shows, not just Real Talk, but Lana has a new show coming out. We're going to be doing some brand new episodes of the Other People's Show and going to be diving into some smaller films like we're doing tonight on a different show as well in the future. But tonight we're going to be diving into a movie that you probably haven't heard of. And it's a movie that I would think that this is not a movie for everyone. It's quite often the movies that we choose on this show. But this movie is a 1990 movie called After Dark, My Sweet. And this is a movie about a former boxer, Kid Collins, who escapes from a mental hospital. He begins working for a widow, and then he becomes entangled with a kidnapping scheme. Now, this was directed by James Foley. And if you don't know James Foley's work, he passed away. I think he passed away last year or the year before. But he has had some very solid films over the years, and they've been critically praised. But he's not ever really been a big box office draw. But he had the movie Glengarry Glen Ross, which had Kevin Spacey, Alec Baldwin, Al Pacino, Alan Arkin, Jack Lemmon, and that was a huge critical, and that was actually a financial success as well. And that movie actually went to Broadway, and it might actually still playing there now. Glengarry Glen Ross. He was in a Sean Penn movie called At Close Range. Directed, not in it, sorry. And he's in this little-known Ed Burns movie called Confidence, starring Ed Burns, Rachel Weisz, Andy Garcia, and Dustin Hoffman. And that is a very good crime thriller film. And it keeps you guessing, kind of like this movie does too. You don't really know where it's going to. It's one of Dustin Hoffman's best performances as a villain, as a bad guy, which isn't very often at all. And this is probably Edward Burns, one of my proteges, or I guess I'm one of his proteges, one of his finest acting works other than Saving Private Ryan. So James Foley does have a good body of work, and he's a solid director, but I never thought that he got what was due when he was alive. So a lot of his films now are coming to light once again, and hopefully it'll capture a whole new audience. Now, as we're diving in to After Dark, My Sweet, we've got a very diverse cast, and one of the first actors in this cast is Jason Patric as Kevin Kid Collins. Now, most people would probably know him from The Lost Boys. And that's probably what I would guess would be probably one of his his bigger roles that everyone would know. But he's also been in movies, The Lost Boys, Solar Babies in 1986. The Lost Boys was actually only his second film. After Dark My Sweet was in 1990. He did the movie Rush with Jennifer Jason Leigh in 1991, where his character in the movie, they're undercover detectives, and they're actually doing drugs to actually do the drug busts. And within that, they become addicted to the drugs themselves. That's a movie called Rush. I would highly recommend that. He was a movie with Brad Pitt and a Dustin Hoffman in 1996 called Sleepers. Kevin Bacon, I think, was also in that. And then he tried his hand at a bigger box office, big budget movie called Speed 2 Cruise Control. Now, if you know anything about the movie business, Speed 2 cost 6 times the original of the first Speed with Keanu Reeves and Sandra Bullock. You spend $25 million on the first one, it makes over $300 million worldwide. So why would you budget the second one at pretty much $165 to $200 million? That makes no sense at all. But Keanu Reeves stepped out of the project. He went to tour with his band Dogstar, and Jason Patric stepped in as Keanu Reeves' character. Pretty much not his character, but a stand-in as his character. Speed 2 was a financial flop, making only $106 million on a $165 to $200 million budget, and it won many, many Razzies in 1997. But I say that to say that the only reason Jason Patric has stated that he took that role is to get his next movie, Your Friends and Neighbors, financed. Now, this is a movie, it's a very tough watch. It's kind of like, I would say, Lana and I were talking the other day about tough watches. Requiem for a Dream was one of the toughest watches that we were talking about. It's a great, solid movie. It's well acted. It's got a great score. It's got great actors and actresses, but it's very difficult to watch that on repeat because of the subject matter. It might touch too close to home to people, and it's just very tough to watch these characters in that kind of a situation. And Your Friends and Neighbors is very similar in that it's tough to watch, not due to the drug content, because it's mainly a talky relationship film, but due to the conversations that these couples deal with. So I suggest if you can't find Your Friends and Neighbors, you're looking for more of a talky relationship drama, then I would seek that out. I have it on DVD, but it is hard to find. Jason Patric was also in Narc, which was produced by Tom Cruise. Tom Cruise liked the movie so well that he stepped in and he ended up producing it when the movie's budget had run short. No one was getting paid, so that's a good find with Ray Liotta as well. He tried his hand at a big budget again in 2004 with The Alamo, and that has local actor Patrick Wilson. Billy Bob Thornton's also in it. That was a big flop. And then since then, Jason Patric has pretty much done second and third, I don't want to say rate character pieces, but he's been the first or second leads in movies like My Sister's Keeper with Cameron Diaz. You've got the straight-to-DVD or straight-to-video movie The Prince with Bruce Willis in 2014. And then you also have, he plays a villain in the movie The Losers, and that's in 2010. So a lot of you all might just know Jason Patric from The Lost Boys, but he has been busy with a lot of these smaller type movies. And he was actually in Terrifier 3, which I'm too much of a chicken to watch. I think that movie is just a little bit too violent, a little more too grotesque for me personally at this stage, but he is in that as well. You've got Rachel Ward, the female lead. And I got to be honest with you all, I didn't really know much of Rachel Ward's work before or after this movie. Now, I'm looking at her IMDb, and she has had directing roles, acting roles, television roles, and she's never really broke out from what I can tell. She's been a constant working actress for most of the 90s, and she looks like she took a break from 1994 till 2007. So she probably helped raise her family during that time, but she's a standout in this movie. And then you also have Bruce Dern, who is the father of Laura Dern, who most people know from Jurassic Park. She's also in a great movie with Nicolas Cage called Wild at Heart. And she was the muse, David Lynch's muse was Bruce, I lost the name. Bruce Dern's daughter, Laura. So on IMDb, this movie has a 6.5. And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't know if I agree with that. I found out about this movie about 6 or 7 years ago. And it's a slow burn of a movie. And it's a movie that if you don't like movies, you're not going to like this, because this would be classified on the verge of a film. A movie is there more to just entertain you, to pass the time. But a film, you get engaged in. You want to know about these characters. There's more depth to them. There's more, I don't want to say intelligence, but in some ways there's more than just watching the silver screen. This is a movie that you can dive into. These kind of movies are character pieces that you want to learn why these characters act the way they do. Why do they make the decisions the way that they do? What propels the story forward? Is it the actions of just these characters, or is it, quote, actions in general, like it is a lot of times in major blockbusters? This is character driven, it's dialogue driven, very little action, but it's full of suspense. It's full of thrills, and you're on the edge of your seat because it's like a puzzle that you only get one piece at a time trying to put together. Not like the same way like Memento. It's not that kind of a puzzle piece movie, but you don't know exactly how this movie will finish. And if you're starting this movie and you're wondering and watching and you're thinking, I know how this will end, I don't think you will. I do not think that you would guess how the movie concludes as how it begins. And that's the great journey through these type of movies, because you don't know where they go. They're slow burns of movies, which means they seep deep. It takes time. Sometimes it takes rewatching, and it takes an appreciation of this kind of film to really appreciate this kind of film, to be honest with you. So like I said, IMDb has a 6.5. Rotten Tomatoes, although not around in 1990, has an 80% positive, and the audience score is at 61%. So pretty much this has a 60% or above positive rating toward the audience and critics. And that takes us to some of Jason Patric's box office problems. This movie was shot in 1989 on a budget of $7 million. It was shot on location in Palm Springs, California, Central California, and you can tell with almost every shot, it's like a sun-soaked, drenched cinematography. You feel the heat. You feel the characters sweat. You feel the dreariness of those characters. You feel the weariness of the weight that these characters are taking upon themselves. And the good thing about this film, or bad, depending on what your opinion is, there's very few people acting in this movie. There's only about 5 or 6 actual actors and actresses in this movie. 3 main ones: Jason Patric, Rachel Ward, and Bruce Dern. And this movie, like I said, cost $7 million. Now, I was speaking earlier, talking to my producer about that, and she was a little bit surprised that this movie cost that much. And I would, in a way, I would think surprised, but looking back on it, you have to think Jason Patric was probably getting a big paycheck for this movie, so probably $500,000, maybe $1 million. Bruce Dern at least $500,000, so that's $1.5 million already spent. And then on location shooting costs more than if you're in a studio or a soundstage, because you're having to haul the equipment around. You're having to shoot on film at this point, 35 millimeter, not digital. You're having to load up all the camera crew. You're having to load up all the gaffers and everything like that. So that does cost money, and you are shooting in daylight and in dark. And I think the money is on screen, but it's pushing the $7 million budget. It really is. The gross of this movie, I could only find the American gross, which was only $2.6 million, which means this was a financial flop. It didn't make money, and that's the way a lot of Jason Patric's movies have done over the years. He seems to have chosen roles that are more character pieces than those that are strictly for entertainment purposes. And movies for entertainment purposes, that really aren't great movies would be, and I'm not even saying these are bad movies, but like the Bad Boys movies. Those are just made for entertainment purposes. What you see on screen is pretty much what you get. There's not a lot of layers to that. And there's been a lot of movies that's come out lately that's been like that. Sinners was a movie like that. That's not really a movie for, quote, smart people. It's an entertaining movie, which nothing's wrong with that. But that when you're diving in and you have a love of cinema, sometimes you're seeking more than just that entertainment value. You're wanting something a little bit deeper. And I think After Dark, My Sweet does offer that deepness. Now you're wondering, what is After Dark, My Sweet about? You've spoke about all these things and you've danced around it, but you've not really dove in to the plot. And the plot would I guess you could sum it up by After Dark, My Sweet. I guess you could say it revolves around William Kid Collins, a former boxer who's recently escaped from a mental institution. He's become entangled with a manipulative widow, Faye Anderson, and her associate, Uncle Bud, in a kidnapping plot. Now, Faye initially, and that's basically the plot of the movie, Faye initially picks up we'll call him Kid Collins, at a bar. He's there. He's kind of a drifter. He's broke out of the mental institution, and you can tell right away that something isn't quite right with him. He's off just a little bit. And I think that anybody that watches the film would know right away that something is a little bit off about Kid Collins. Is it the way he speaks? Is it these little tics that he has? Is it the way he walks? All these little mannerisms encapsulates that this guy is just a little left of center. He's a little off kilter, but you can't put your finger on exactly why he's like this. Now, throughout the film, you do realize that he has killed someone in the boxing ring. And there's certain flashbacks throughout the movie. And that gives you kind of a little bit of insight that his mental state is very fragile. And I think the audience is led to believe one of the pieces, the puzzle pieces, is that he's fragile like this because he murdered someone in the boxing ring. And that's not what he was trying to do. Or maybe that was what he was trying to do. Because as the progression of the film occurs, you kind of realize that Kid Collins isn't quite as stupid or dumb as he's led you to believe. Is he the one manipulating Faye? Is he the one manipulating Uncle Bud? Because throughout the film, you think that Faye is in control. And then you think that Uncle Bud is in control because they think that Kid Collins is dumb, that he has no smarts, that he's not intellectual. When in reality, is he manipulating and playing them? And that's the fun in this movie. You have some puzzle pieces. You have them on the board, but you don't know exactly the picture they're going to make because you don't have them all until the very last scene of the movie. Like I said, we have Jason Patric, who's done a great job, Rachel Ward, and Bruce Dern. I don't want to really leave him out because he has... Now, Bruce Dern I think Bruce Dern is he's about 89 years old. And he has been in so many things. You've got the War Wagon in 1966. You've got Psych Out in 1968. You've got Silent Running in 1972. The Twist in 1976. Black Sunday 1977. And then you get into the 80s, and then he's in so many things in the 80s. You've got The Big Town, World Going Wild, The Burbs, After Dark, My Sweet, in 1992. He's in Diggstown. He's with, what's his name? Can't recall his name right away. What is his name? Oh, he's with Jeff Bridges in Wild Bill in 1995. He's also in Down Periscope, Mulholland Falls, Last Man Standing in 1996, The Haunting in 1998, 99, Small Soldiers. So you know Bruce Dern. He's been in a lot of movies, and he's even up to movies up until, I think he's in some things now. He's got some things going on now. So Bruce Dern, he holds his own as Uncle Bud, and you kind of know that his character is sinister in a way. You know that his character is not telling the truth. and you know his character is full of BS, just lies. And that is something because I think Bruce Dern as an actor is a great actor. He does a good job. He always seems to bring great value to the role, whether it be comedic, dramatic, or whatever. I do think if Christopher, if what's his name from Back to the Future, if he didn't play Doc, I think Bruce Dern would have played a good Doc in Back to the Future as well. Um, the score of this movie, and this is kind of like a film noir. So the score of this movie is very moody. You've got the opening song that I played. We'll play a little bit now, maybe in a moment. But you've got the saxophone, you've got the horns, you've got this kind of minor, B minor, A minor sounding score going on, and it's very moody, and it's very kind of like that of the Salton Sea. You've got these little subtle pieces too. And I love when you bring in that saxophone and that horn, because that adds another layer to what's going on, because you have to understand when you're watching a movie other than an action movie, the score matters. It's bringing in another layer. It's the music bed that's kind of holding up the scene. And that moodiness can transfer through you. Not only the actions of the actors and the actresses, but that score can go through you just like music. I mean, have you ever been sitting around listening to a song and the song penetrates inside of you and you feel emotional and you begin to weep and the tears begin to stream down your face? Now, it could be something that the lyrics of the song, it could take you back to a different nostalgic place in your mind, or it could touch you in a way that only music and film can touch you. And I think a lot of these film noir movies, especially from the 80s and 90s, really capture that with the score and the soundtrack. And I think that After Dark, My Sweet is no different at all. Very moody. Now, originality, I do think this movie is an original piece. It's based upon a novel from, I think, 1955. And it was adapted by the director. He wrote the screenplay based upon James Foley, based upon the novel of the same name. And like a lot of these movies, I don't know if, kidnapping a rich person's kid is necessarily, quote, original. But the way in which the story unfolds, I think, is original. And I think I can't think of another movie right off that it kind of reminds me of. Can you, producer? Can you think of another movie that this reminds you of? No. Like, the story itself might not be original, but the way it's told is totally original. And that's what's fun about it also. And I use fun loosely because this is a movie that, I'm not going to say it's an easy watch, because it's I do think it's about 10 to 15 minutes too long. But I often think that with movies, I think you should leave the audience wanting more than saying, I liked it, but it was a little longer than I thought it should be. But regardless of that, it is still an original piece. Now, we have the poster, and the poster is, I'm going to be honest. The poster, I'm not saying it's great, and I'm not saying it's bad, but the poster is a little bit erotic. You kind of see the side of Jason Patric's face, Rachel Ward, they're in mid-kiss, and there's a few, I guess you could say, more provocative scenes in this movie, and they don't hold back. It's kind of realistic. You can see the passion in these characters, the confliction they have because they have this attraction. You know, Faye and Kid Collins have this attraction, but why did Faye take an interest in Kid Collins to begin with? Was it to try to execute her plan with Uncle Bud? Was it because she was a widowed and kind of an alcoholic and she really wanted this connection with an outsider? Could she tell that something was a little off with Kid Collins? I don't know. That's for you to decide as the audience member. And there's also a side plot, which I won't really get into much now, of where a doctor takes a special interest in Kid Collins and his treatment. And it's kind of a doctor that has a little bit of a creep factor as well. The actor, it's a character actor. I can't recall his name right off, but you'll know his face right around when you see him, and he does a swell job as well. Now, recommendations of After Dark, My Sweet. Now, I'll say this. This isn't going to be a movie for everyone. This is not a fast-paced thriller. This is not a every single second you're on the edge of your seat, but the tension does build, and it builds to a climax that you might not see coming. And there are, like I said earlier, think of this as a jigsaw puzzle, and you don't have all the pieces. You only have the pieces as director James Foley wants you to have those pieces. And that's precise. It's one piece at a time. But when you get to the end, you have this picture, this full picture of what he's painted. And you as the audience get to decide how you feel. Is this a satisfactory conclusion? Does Faye, Uncle Bud, and Kid Collins get what they deserve in the end? So I would recommend this movie. This is a movie, I think it's on Tubi right now for free. So you can go on there. It's about 2 hours, a little long. I think it's about 10, 15 minutes too long, but that doesn't really diminish the quality at all. Now, I do think, and I do wish, looking back, that this had been a hit movie. Because I think had this been a hit movie, Jason Patric might have had a more... I'm not really sure who his career would have been like, because like I said, he's more into character study movies than being a movie star. But I think it would have led to some more interesting projects rather than just churning out a lot of directed DVD things in the last couple of years just for money. I know he's going around now doing, some of the Comic Cons and things like that, the fests, which is cool. And I'm sure he's going to be, 95% of that is going to be Lost Boys talk. But don't turn a nose up at After Dark, My Sweet. I think it's a slow burn thriller that is well acted, well directed. The cinematography is on point. About 10 to 15 minutes too long. But once you're invested, you need to totally invest in this film. This is not a film to have on in the background. This is not a film like World War Z that you can just have playing in the background while you're doing other things. This is a film that needs to have your total attention. And I think if you get absorbed with the characters, with the setting, with the score, and you're invested, I think you truly will enjoy this movie. And that's my hope, that you will come away from the show going on to Tubi, going on to Freevee, and checking out After Dark, My Sweet. Give it about 20 minutes. And, if you don't like it, you don't like it. But I think it's a good character study. And I think that those that really enjoy these kind of things in story-driven movies will really enjoy this, because it's a movie you've not heard of. Had you heard of this movie before?
No, actually I hadn't.
No. And not many people have. And that's the joy in kind of finding a diamond in the rough. Is this a perfect movie? By no means, no. Is there a perfect movie? What would my perfect movie be? I don't know. There's no technical perfect movie that's ever existed. Now, story-wise, I could probably come up with a couple, but it would take a little while to go through the catalog of movies. And like I said, this by no means is a perfect film. But if you're looking for something different, if you're looking for something a little off center that kind of throws you off balance and you're not going to know what's going to happen every step of the way, check it out. I really think you'll enjoy it. If not, it'll make you think because you're going to relate to one of these three characters. You're going to relate to Kid Collins, Faye, or Uncle Bud. And you're going to relate to them for your own personal reasons. And that's the thing, because all three characters, this is the cool thing about it, and this is one of the reasons I really like it. All three characters, they're not good people. None of the people in the movie are good people. And that's just like in real life, because all good people have bad qualities. All bad people have good qualities. And this crosses the line because you don't know who is good and bad in this film until the very last scene. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that.
Yeah. And that's the fun in it, because it is a puzzle. And it makes me excited to learn that people have gone out and watched some of these films. So please check this out. Let me know what you think. After Dark, My Sweet. It's on Tubi. I think it's on Freevee. Now, next week, we're going to get into something a little more blockbuster, a little more mainstream. We took the last 2 weeks off. Came back with a small independent film. This is probably a movie that no one has heard of out there. So I do appreciate you all tuning in. Please check it out. Leave a comment below. Go to all the social media, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, The Other People Show. And please check out all the great programming on 92.5 WLSD. And we will, I'm not sure what we'll do next week, but it could be something in the theaters now. I know we have the remake of I Know What You Did Last Summer just came out. I'm not sure how I feel about that. We have 28 Years Later. That's on the tail end of the theatrical release. We might do that. We've not really done much zombie movies. I think the last one was The Dead Don't Die, which was the Bill Murray, Adam Driver comedy. So, yeah, we're going to get into something a little bit more mainstream. But thank you all for tuning in, and we'll be back next week with a new Real Talk and a brand new edition of The Other People Show. You all have a good night.